later on this weekend. And, of course, Luke Jones will be out on the backfields in Owings Mills. For any Ravens breaking news, jump on our text service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. The Red Sox come to town, as a team that I would have put the dollar on them all along to be the team that's going to win the American League East. I am beginning to have my doubts about them, as is our next guest. He is a Hall of Famer, and I love saying that because it was a lot of fun watching him do his thing up in Cooperstown a couple of weeks ago. And we share the Baltimore Evening Sun in our background. I don't know what kind of week I've had, but Phil Jackman for Crabs at Dock of the Bay on Sunday, and Dan Shaughnessy from the Boston Globe to join me here on WNST. Always a pleasure. Dan, happy pennant race to you, man, but you're not happy up there. Red Sox giving everybody fits up there, right?
Yeah, it's been kind of a thrill ride with this team. I mean, they're fun to watch because obviously the offense, and they have these explosions like you saw yesterday. Betts hits 3 homers in the first 5 innings and 16-1 after 5. It's just like crazy.
On Greinke, no less, right?
They had a lot of that. Yeah, they had a lot of pinball numbers back in April and May, but they've got the second best run differential in the American League and more runs than any team in baseball. So my question is, why aren't they 5 or 6 games ahead?
Well, they're not good in tight games, as you pointed out. Close games, they've struggled. Blowouts, it's, my dad used to say that about, Triandos and those guys back. He hit 30 home runs, but he hit 25 of them when the game was already decided. The Big Papi is, the king of hitting them in the clutch situations, but it's been a little feast or famine for the Red Sox, and certainly the pitching just hasn't been good enough, long enough to sustain them.
Yeah, they had this bad route, with the starting pitching, many, many turns in rotation. Somebody was having a burp every time through or more. That's kind of stabilized a little bit. The starters are not the problem. The bullpen's been bad, and they got shut down a lot on their West Coast trip. And they have an enormous amount of road games to play. I mean, they only have 16 home games the rest of the year. So they stacked their schedule early on with the home part of it, and now they got to pay the price. They still have to go back to the West Coast one more time.
Well, and they have these weird trips to Cleveland. We had a weird trip to Minnesota. The schedules, you've been watching baseball a long time. Give me your spiel on interleague play and these goofy, my wife said 2-game series with the Red Sox. When's the last time we played a 2-game series with the Red Sox?
Well, this thing gets compounded because there's a rain makeup in Cleveland today for them, which goes back to April. And nothing anybody can do about that. But the result of it, Nestor, is you end up with, I've never seen a baseball team in a 5-day period. They're playing against 4 different teams in 4 cities, and 3 of them are day games. So they had Arizona Sunday day, Cleveland Monday day, Baltimore Tuesday, Wednesday night, Detroit Thursday day, and that's like more like an NBA schedule or something. It's just nutty, and for them to have the day game in Detroit after a night game in Baltimore back to back after all this. Hey, this stuff happens. Every team goes through different scheduling quirks, and the rainout just makes this one extra goofy because you get a 1-game series right before the 2-game series.
He is famous for the Curse of the Bambino, as well as if you're watching any of the Cooperstown stuff. He is Dan Shaughnessy from the Boston Globe. You can follow his journey, and thousands do at Dan_Shaughnessy, longtime sports columnist for the Boston Globe and winner of the J.G. Spink Award. Been a nice year for you. I know you don't like talking about you so much. You're kind of old school in that way, but it was fun for me, and certainly your name came up with Jackman over Crabs on Sunday as well, and your a legacy at the Baltimore Evening Sun, as I'm a part of that as well. Really nice that writers get honored. Maybe it's something you never thought would happen on your behalf, but certainly worthy. And you've put your hours in clubhouses and locker rooms and managerial and player brawls over the course of time as an outspoken sort.
Well, Baltimore is certainly a huge part of my little story, and I came there when I was 23 years old in 1977. The O's were getting really good again, and that stretch of 90-win seasons, all the time, and it was such a great organization from ownership on down to the clubhouse guys, the Tylers, and everybody was just wonderful. And Jackman, it's great to hear that name because he kind of took me under his wing out there, and being a Worcester guy and a Central Mass guy, and one of the most talented guys ever to come to Baltimore. So it was great to have people like that out there. And Bill Tanton took a shot hiring me, and just all the wonderful people who were so great to me those years. 5 years covering the Orioles are really the most enjoyable beat I ever had.
Well, I mean, you got to sit in the dugout with Earl, right? I mean, so when some people talk, it was Earl's birthday on Sunday, and of course, Scope hits the 3-run homer on Earl's birthday. I guess a lot of the foundational part of that. I mean, obviously, my family was involved in baseball, and I sort of always grew up wanting to be around it. But there was nothing like my first experience with Johnny Oates the first couple years in the early '90s to teach me a lot about baseball. And then, of course, the Flanagans, and you learn a lot just by sitting and watching Jim Palmer every night here, right?
Yeah, and I mean Earl was a friend of the writers. Players weren't crazy about him, nor were the umpires, of course. But boy, he understood our job, and he was great with us. And he'd give you different stuff for the PM papers, and always, he didn't hold a grudge. He'd get mad at you, but you'd make up and talk about anything the next day. And yeah, you talk about Jim Palmer. I spent a lot of time with him in Cooperstown, and he's just continues to remember everything that ever happened in baseball. Has a perfect memory. He had a great story about Louis Aparicio coming in and telling him not to worry about Dwayne Josephson and giving up a 3-run home run the next pitch. He said, "Stay away from me. Don't come into the mound after that." So he still teases him about that. But it was a lot of fun being around those all-time greats.
Well, and for you to be a part of that, give me a little, postmortem on that. I'm sure you had a level of expectation going into it. It's not your first time at the rodeo going to Cooperstown, but being involved in it, that's a life's work, Dan. You should be proud of that, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, as a sports writer, we're not used to people treating us well. I understand that. We're just part of the background there, but you go to, stay at the Otissaga with the Hall of Famers, and everybody treats you great, and very intimidating to be around these all-time great ball players. But people were so nice, and you're having breakfast, you're getting at the omelet station, and Juan Marichal standing next to you waiting for an omelet, and then you sit down with your wife, and the next table over, Sandy Koufax and Cal Ripken just sitting there chewing the fat, and it's just it's a very daunting thing. And one of my great memories at the end of Sunday was looking up on the porch of the Otissaga, where the old guys go out and take their pictures and kind of have a real time to themselves, and Brooks Robinson and Cal Ripken, a couple of rocking chairs, just looking out at the lake, and I'm thinking, boy, what stories they could tell.
Good times. Dan Shaughnessy, it's Dan_Shaughnessy, of course, out at the Boston Globe. I want to get back onto the field here in the rest of this pennant race because the Ortiz thing lives behind this. And, dare I say, part of the reason that you were in Cooperstown and you've become famous in the Curse of the Bambino and all that stuff, Ortiz, the Schillings, the Martinezes, all the guys, Tito played into that. I mean, you sat and watched a lot of crappy baseball in the 80s and 90s, Dan. I used to see you come down to Camden Yards. I mean, the Red Sox were sort of always the little engine that didn't. And then all of a sudden, over the last 15 years, as your career, and I talked to Bob Ryan as well, there's a lot of things going on in Boston. I mean, the Celtics back in the 80s, obviously everything the Patriots have represented from the minute Belichick got there. But Ortiz has been there through all of this, and I don't think we've ever seen an exit that's looking like what this exit looks like. Maybe 40 home runs, certainly 100 RBIs, doubles. He's still hitting doubles, and he can't walk. This is kind of otherworldly, and I know around here everyone makes the PED jokes and talks about him, beating up the phone in the dugout at Camden Yards. But what we're seeing from Ortiz may never be replicated again.
I would think not. I mean, he's already set the record for extra base hits by a guy 40 years old, and we've still got 7 weeks of the season left. I characterize it as truly unbelievable, and I just don't think the only comp I can think of to play like this at that age is Bonds. So it's quite a last go around he's having here. You're right when you say, I mean, the legs are shot and he can't run, but he can stand there in the batter's box and just wail away, and he's done it like no 40-year-old ever.
But of all the guys you've covered, he has to be your Ali, right? I mean, literally, he's the guy you were waiting for to come over from Minnesota and make the Red Sox what they've been over the last decade and a half.
It's just so weird. When he came on, there was not a lot of fanfare, and the Twins had released him at the age of 26. And who knew? He had one home run through May the first year in 2003. He was platooned with Jeremy Giambi. They were calling him Juan Pierre. He wanted to be traded. I mean, it just kind of took off all of a sudden in 2003. And then, of course, you get to 2004, and he's getting every clutch hit you can think of, and that biblical run they had against the Yanks, and finally winning the World Series. And on to that, you get to 2013, he hit 688 in the World Series. I mean, what the hell?
Dan Dabrowski comes over, and you've been through all these guys. I mean, you were there for a long time when Duquette had his reign of terror up there at Yawkey as well. For where he sat this summer to make the moves he made, I thought the Pomerantz thing was kind of brilliant. Now, I know, 5 years from now when that kid's winning 20 games, we may not look at, for the Padres, we might not look at it that way, but they've done everything they can do to move the chairs around here to, in a year where they've been hitting 290 as a team for a large stretch of the season, to sort of get this thing right. And I thought your column on Monday kind of nailed it from, where are you in close games, but they can wash all this away. They can deodorize this pretty quickly over the next 6 weeks just by winning the division by one game, right? Which they're very capable of doing.
Absolutely. That's the goal. They've got the payroll and the talent to do that. Clearly, the Orioles are not going away, and that becomes more clear by the day. But Boston, I know people look at them and say, well, this team has the most talent, and they made moves at the deadline, and they should be able to prevail. But they've been playing 500 ball for a month now. They have a ton of road games ahead, and they haven't demonstrated, as we say, that they can win the tight ones. So it's going to be a continue to be a thrill ride. I'm into it. I like a 3-team race. And I think finishing in first place is so paramount because, otherwise you're in a one-game playoff. And it's not even like being in the playoffs. I mean, the Yanks were in that last year. It got stuffed, by Houston, and you just go away. So you really are only in the playoffs if you win that one-game playoff. And there's no guarantee you do. It's just so much more secure to get into a series, to win your division. You know you're going to be around for a little bit at least and have a fighting chance instead of, running into some unhittable guy on one day and your season's over.
I can't imagine Buck Showalter pinch running Dylan Bundy on Tuesday night and having him wind up on the DL. I mean, what the hell is going on with that? I mean, that is, when the story is written and you will write it, I'm sure that's got to be right up there with like Marty Cordova getting burned in the tanning booth, man.
It's bad, and Pomerantz, you cited already, was available. He's run the bases quite a bit. I don't think Stephen Wright has ever scored a run in professional baseball. He also has the body of a sports writer. He just isn't the guy you'd pick out of the dugout and say, yeah, why don't you go out there? And the play wasn't even a throw. The guy just turned to throw, and Wright dove back, and there you go. So, John Farrell, on top of not making the best decisions, has been unlucky, and that's a real demonstration of bad luck.
So, Dan, when you're down here having a crab cake this week and I hand you $1 and say, put it on red, blue, or orange in the American League East, who's going to win this division in your mind?
I think the Blue Jays are going to win the division. I just think, and, they're starting pitching, like we talked about Baltimore, is a suspect, but I just think they've been waiting to get hot, and they really haven't had that, and they have all those numbers guys that can gear up, a lot of them in their walk years, so I still think they were there last year. I think they will prevail, but you could really, the three of them, you could put them into a hat right now, and you can make a case for any of them.
Dan, always following your work, man. Always a big fan here. We'll be following you out at Dan_Shaughnessy for the rest of the way. I sleep every night with a Red Sox fan and a family full of them. So my wife being from Manchester, New Hampshire. So we get our fair share of Sox around here. It's going to be a fun 6 weeks as we get this pennant race going. We haven't had one of these here, Dan. It's been, in 12, right, they were from nowhere. In 14, they ran away. This is a legitimate 40 to 60 days of every single night having a... We don't know what that's like around here. This generation hasn't seen that.
Totally more fun. I'm really into it. I'm very much looking forward to it.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Nestor.
You got it. Dan Shaughnessy, sports columnist at the Boston Globe and the winner of the J.G. Spink Award in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame. And you can follow his work out at bostonglobe.com as well. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear whether you're in Boston, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine, anywhere Red Sox is served, we come in, as well as the Orioles, even out on the Eastern Shore. You can get the morning newspaper delivered to your email inbox each and every morning, powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get it going there and to get in the best shape of your life. It's under the purple and gold sign. It is Planet Fitness. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST text service. That is powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday to drive you home and get you ready for the Astros and get you ready for the Colts and a weekend of the ending of the Olympics. We got plenty happening here this week. You can always find me, Nasty, at WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, wherever you are out there, including Facebook Live and on YouTube, streaming live through WNSTV. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you.